Hey, thanks, Rebecca. Thanks for that intro. Thank you for setting this up. I'm really excited to be working with Salt Lake Community College as a community partner. I think the Thane Center has done some really impressive things with connecting with the community and kind of pivoting in the COVID world. Like, I think it was Lucy was saying, everyone's kind of like, this is the first time we're doing this virtually. This is the first time we're holding this virtually. And I think the Thane Center has done an excellent job at pivoting and connecting with the community during this time because we definitely need it. Our organizations that provide services to the community. So I really appreciate the support through this time and the way that you've dealt with COVID. I'm Ariella. For those of you who came on a little bit later, I also go by Elle, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the volunteer coordinator at Safe Harbor Crisis Center. So most of what I do is just connect individuals who want to volunteer their time with opportunities in our organization. So a little bit about us. We are and I'm gonna see if I can share my screen actually real quick. And I'll pull up our website so you can see just kind of our space online. Okay, so we are an organization that provides services for survivors of domestic abuse and sexual assault. We do have a shelter, but we also have many other services. We have the first and only shelter for survivors in Davis County. We also have a lot of advocacy and prevention services. So we, in addition to our shelter, we have a transitional housing facility, which provides basically longer term shelter. So our shelter is a 45-day shelter for individuals who are in immediate crisis, needing to get out of an unsafe situation. They can come into our shelter. We also have a 24/7 hotline, and we do actually utilize volunteers to help answer that line. And then for people who are maybe not in immediate danger, but still need support, we have groups, we have advocates that help people file for protective orders or find therapy. And then our transitional housing facility is somewhere where people can stay for up to 2 years. And all of our services are provided for free. And we have definitely experienced a high need for our services through this time. And while a lot of our things that we do have shifted to remote atmosphere, we also have a lot of services that cannot be done remotely, like our shelter, for example, and our transitional housing. So we've had kind of a mix of shifting some of our volunteer experiences to virtual, but we have brought some volunteers actually back on site simply to help alleviate the burden that staff is facing at this time. So we do actually have volunteer opportunities that are in person still, unlike most organizations. However, we also understand that a lot of students and others that are seeking volunteer opportunities are not comfortable doing in-person volunteering. So we are more than happy to work with people and find ways that they can volunteer remotely as well. So our volunteers do a lot of things for our organization. I'm going to see if I think I saw something pop up in the chat. Let's see. I'll check that later. I'll stop sharing my screen in a second. I'll see what was put in the chat there. But yeah, we have volunteers in all sorts of positions in our agency. They're kind of central to our functioning. They, like I said, they help answer the hotline. They support and advocate for clients in a lot of capacities. And because of that they're working directly with clients, we do have some requirements for people volunteering in our regular positions, like completing training, completing a background check, being over 18, and they have to, volunteers have to apply and go through like an onboarding process. But we also take groups all the time just to do projects and just to help us out in any little thing that we need. We've had a lot of groups come in and support our children's program by putting together activity boxes or kits for the kids or for the advocates. So that's a little bit about our services. That's a little bit about volunteering. I'm going to stop sharing now and just see if there are any questions so far. Oh, okay. It looks like you guys were just introducing yourself. Okay, yeah. So any questions about our services, about what we do, anything else?
Yeah, Ariella, I actually am hoping you would go back to the screen that has volunteer opportunities, and maybe could you talk about those just a little bit more in more detail, what those might look like? Again, especially like which ones are in person and how that would work, and then which ones are remote, and yeah, just a few more details on that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. So kind of the largest base of our volunteers are in our shelter. And what they do is they help at the front desk in the shelter. So they do a little bit of support for clients who are coming in and out, who live in the shelter, who may need help with just getting something out of the closets for them, or giving them a bus token, or connecting them with an advocate for other services. So they help a little bit with the residents in shelter. And then the other biggest thing that the volunteers there do is answer our crisis line. So they receive training for how to take those calls and enter information that will then get passed on to advocates who will work more directly with the clients. So that's what our shelter volunteers do. We have shifts available for volunteers there every day of the week, since we are a 24/7 shelter. And those shifts are from 8 in the morning until 8 at night. Typically volunteers who commit to that role will usually sign up for like a 3-hour shift once a week. And again, I know most places are not doing in-person volunteering. The only reason we are is just because we rely so much on our volunteers to help relieve some of the burden of our staff. And as a nonprofit, we have limited funding. So as much as we'd love to just hire a ton of staff to cover the front desk, our volunteers really help fill that need. So that's kind of the bulk of our volunteers, because that's the area where we need people there all the time to help out. We also have volunteers at our community center, which is where I am right now. So we have a community center at Station Park, if you know where that's at. And it is basically just kind of the building where we receive donations and things like that. Our shelter location, we don't really share online. We don't, like if you Google us, our shelter address won't come up, and that's for the safety of our clients. And so the address that'll come up if you Google us is actually our community center, where people can drop off donations. Clients do come here as well to set up appointments with advocates, to meet with advocates. A lot of our advocates here help people file for protective orders and things like that. We used to have volunteers that help that advocate with clients filing for protective orders. So this is back before COVID, when clients would go into court to file a protective order. Volunteers would be there and available to advocate with them, to sit with them through the process, and to kind of help keep the petitioners and respondents separated from one another, to help reduce the trauma of having to see your perpetrator, when you're filing for a protective order and things like that, and just kind of be an advocate, help the clients know kind of what to expect for in the process and things like that. For a while, protective order court in our county has been done and virtually. So we have not actually had volunteers coming in for that role. Let's see. Another volunteer opportunity we have, which again is in person, is a crisis response team. So these volunteers are on call. When we receive a call from a client requesting a sexual assault examination, these volunteers are dispatched to go out with the clients on those calls. So that's another volunteer position that we have.
I have some questions, if that's all right for you.
Yeah, chime on in.
Okay. The primary course that I work through is technical writing. And in that, they do a lot of writing, obviously, things like grant writing, producing brochures for events and things like that. Is that something also that would work for you if we produce these kinds of materials, or is that already pretty much covered?
Yes, I think we could definitely use support with that. And if you do have people with that expertise, I would love to talk about ways so I could get them connected with the right people in our organization to fill that need. So I would probably connect them with like our development director and see what the needs are there. But I'm sure she would welcome some extra help with grant writing, with making brochures, things like that.
Yeah, and I see your website looks pretty good. We also do website revision, but it doesn't look like you need that.
Well, I mean, we update things.
And we do also offer translation. You know, it depends semester to semester what students I have, but we do translation services. Spanish is obvious, but we've had, you know, various, Arabic, various East Asian languages, Mongolian, Uyghur, you know, so a wide range to kind of cover the refugees in the area. So if you need any of that, as I said, it depends on the particular semester. And Lucy, you may be interested in hearing this as well, but I'm currently working with both the social work and the psychology professors to bring them into technical writing. So I see where there could be a connection there with their students and the volunteering that you have there. So it sounds like this could be a very good fit for my students and what we're doing and some of your needs. So I would definitely like to kind of reach out and work with you and see if we could get set up.
Yes, please do reach out. I'd love to work with you to get that set up because I think it's something we could definitely benefit from.
And Daniel, quick question. Did you say then that the other faculty you're working with, that they'll be partnering with your students in tech writing, or that they're also looking at having their students do service learning? Or
what we're doing is, I know that social work has indicated their interest in requiring tech writing for their students. Psych econ. So I talked to the AD over psych econ and what else? He has a couple other discipline areas, and they're looking at that as well. Because they have a bit more students than just the social work. They're being a little bit more cautious about what they commit to, but certainly they want to. So it'd be service learning through my course, but I think. I don't know about the other faculty, but I wouldn't be surprised, Lucy, if you reached out to the social work faculty. There's two of them. I don't know if you know them. I could introduce you if you want. I would be surprised if they did not want to do service learning. I mean, with what they're already involved in.
yeah, Daniel Poole is a major service learning faculty member actually, and in sociology.
And Ariella, if it's okay with you, I'm the head of the Civic Engagement Committee for our department, and I'd like to kind of introduce some of the things that you're bringing in and give it to the teachers that I know that would have students that would be interested in volunteering in this direction, if that's something you'd be interested in. That may probably the best way to do that would be if there was a video that introduced your organization that I could share with them. That would be very helpful.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. I'll make sure to reach out to you after this meeting. I'll throw my contact info into the chat also at some point during this meeting, so you all have it. And then, yeah, we do have a few videos that introduce Safe Harbor and just kind of tell a little bit about our services that I'd be happy to share. And then, yeah, I think someone was mentioning the social work program. If if in-person is an option for any of your students, this is really good experience for people going into social work, psychology, nonprofits, things like that. But yeah, definitely reach out to me, Daniel. I think there are a lot of ways that we could offer some volunteer experience for your department, and ways that would really benefit us, because yeah, we just really rely on any volunteer work to help us provide our services, because of limited funding, high need, especially during COVID. We've just really seen a lot of calls, an increased need for our services. And we would love to partner with anyone with expertise in writing or anywhere else that would like to help our organization continue to provide the best services for our clients. So yeah, thanks for chiming in, Daniel.
Yeah, so let's plan then on the spring semester. So Rebecca, if you'd help us out kind of pulling that together. I see she's smiling because I'm always asking her to do things for me. So thank you, Rebecca.
Perfect. Yeah.
Can you talk about, if someone, maybe not just about Safe Harbor, but in general, like what's the best way if someone comes to us and says that they are experiencing domestic violence or something like that, like what's the best way for us to get them connected to the resource in their community? And if they are in Davis County, does that matter? Or if they live in Salt Lake County, should they be calling you or should they be calling someone down here? What does that look like?
Great question. That's a really good question. We do have, again, yeah, we have a 24/7 hotline. You can always give them that number. People who answer there, if they're, outside of our county, or there's an agency that might better meet what their needs are, then the people answering our phones can direct them, to an agency in their county, or an agency with what they're seeking. So yeah, you can always give them our crisis number. And then I'm trying to think, there is a statewide, there is just a general number as well, which I'm trying to remember off the top of my head what it's called.
Is that through
yeah.
the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition?
Yeah, UDVC is another great resource. And they're the agency just over the state. So they, okay, yeah, I think this is it right here. The link line, the 24-hour link line is a good one to reach out to. So if you're not sure where the person is, or if they're outside of Davis County, you can give them this number, and then UDVC can direct them. Good question, Rebecca.
And then it looks like there's a question in the chat as well. And they're wondering how your volunteer rates have been impacted by COVID. Have they dropped at all?
Yeah, they have dropped. Especially, I think, just COVID has made it really hard. Most places are not taking volunteers in person, which is completely understandable. We have had a lot of volunteers who, for a number of reasons, have not wanted to do in person because of risk factors, things like that. So yeah, we've seen a drop for sure. We've been working to try and provide more virtual opportunities, and also deal with the reality that we do need people on site helping, run things. And we've been so reliant historically on volunteers. In fact, I think earlier, several years ago in our organization, it was completely volunteer run, like the hotline and the shelter, and we've only more recently started to have staff fill that role. So yeah, so we have seen a drop in volunteering in a sense, but I think we've also seen an increase in people reaching out wanting to volunteer, but to do it virtually. So it's kind of been an interesting mix that we've seen. We've seen a drop in our regular volunteers. We've seen an increase in people just asking how they can help. But yeah.
Ariel, I have a question.
Yeah.
Nick here from Thane Center. Love all of this information. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. I'm thinking about volunteers, and of course, you know, that training is going to be so critical and important for them. What is the kind of time commitment that I could quote to students or people that were wanting to get involved in this process to get the required trainings?
These are all great questions. So for any of our regular positions, volunteer positions, we require at least a 6-month commitment to allow enough time for them to complete training, and then also, you know, give some time volunteering in their role. The training itself for any volunteers in those client-facing roles is 40 hours. So they would be required to do 40 hours of training and then 6 months of volunteering. And we could be very flexible with their schedule as far as actually coming in to volunteer. The area that we don't have flexibility in is just meeting those requirements, like making sure that they get the 40 hours of training completed, that they can pass a background check, that they're over 18, and things like that. So 6 months, it's a 6-month commitment, at least 40 hours of training, and then the hours that they need to actually spend volunteering can be a lot more flexible, but they would need to at least complete 40 hours of training.
Excellent. Yeah, a comparable organization that we partnered with when I worked at Colorado State required a half a semester course for our students to complete training, and there was like a great manual that they had and homework assignments to really make sure that they were competent and comfortable. So fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Nick.
Ariella, what do you look for in your background checks?
So we are contracted under Department of Human Services, and we run a background check through them. And so we submit a background check through their system. We run fingerprints, and then I'm not sure all of the things that might come up in the background check, but any criminal history or anything like that would come up as a red flag, and they would be ineligible to volunteer at that point. So yeah, any kind of criminal history, I think anything except for traffic violations. Yeah.
Do you have any requirements for those who are not doing the direct volunteering? You know, so if, like I said, if they did grant writing or something like that, do you have any training or any other requirements?
Not if they're not working with clients, then they would not have to do the 40 hours of training or any of those things. So no. Anyone coming on site at all just has to sign like a confidentiality agreement, just saying that, you know, any information they may have while they're on site will remain confidential. But yeah, for grant writing and things like that, they would not have to do 40 hours of training and orientation and all of those things, since they're not working with clients.
That, Ariella, that was the nature, this is Lucy again, that was the nature of my question too, because our typical semester is about 4 months. So to have a, a six month volunteer commitment, that's kind of what I was wondering was what are opportunities that, or what opportunities exist that specifically students could do within a semester? And it sounds like for Daniel Baird and what he's talked about with his students, that is a possibility.
Yep, definitely. And I'll work with anybody who comes. Sometimes it's not the best fit. Sometimes if they just want like 10 hours or something, sometimes other organizations are better set up for that. But I'll take help from, wherever it's coming, and we can always work on just they can help us with an event or help us with just a smaller project. But for any of our regular volunteer roles, it's just usually it's better for people who are looking for something more involved, something where they can gain better experience. Maybe that's going to help prepare them for their field, or someone who is ready to kind of commit to a volunteer role that they do expect to be doing for a while. But yeah, I'll work with students or whoever comes through and just find something less with less commitment for sure. But for any of our normal volunteer roles, yeah, just kind of letting them know that there are a lot of requirements for that and there's a time commitment. But anyone, if they reach out to us, we can definitely get them set up in something that works for them.
I know that because a lot of our students work, they sometimes look for either evening or weekend volunteering opportunities. So, if we knew what events were coming up for the semester, we could let the students know and they could, volunteer to help that way as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then as far as just like our agency events, they are on our website as well. And then, yeah, just reach out to me anytime and I can let you know what we've got going on as far as projects and things like that.
What are other ways that students, faculty, and staff can advocate for your organization beyond becoming a volunteer?
You can check out our website for events. We do have actually our biggest fundraiser of the year, Evergreen's, coming up pretty soon here in November. And we're going to be hosting that virtually for the first time. And then just keeping an eye on our website for any other events is a great way to support us. We also have space on social media. So we've got an Instagram and a Facebook page, which people can follow and support us that way, just kind of keeping an eye out on our Facebook and our Instagram for any events coming up. And a lot of times we'll post on there like current donations that we're in need of. We also on our website have like a wish list of things that we need for our shelter, for our advocates, for anyone in our agency needing something to help support clients. So we have a wish list that will just kind of tell you what donations we're currently in need of. So yeah, donating, helping out with events and getting involved that way is a way to support and advocate for us outside of volunteering.
Ariella, that's actually, I'm glad that Rebecca asked that question because as we move into the holidays, a lot of times we'll see a lot of students who might want to do like donation drives. So that could be another way potentially that students could connect. And I see you have this whole list here, yeah, the in kind or the always needed items, laundry detergent, things like that could be something where students could do a donation drive and which might be viable within a semester time frame.
Yeah, and that's an easy way to just kind of help us out. Just grab a few things off of our wish list that will go into our shelter for our clients. So yeah.
Great. Do other folks that are here on the call, we'll give a minute for other folks if they have questions. You can go ahead and just speak up, please, if you questions, comments.
I have a question. Since COVID's happening, well, what does the training look like now?
Good question. So the 40-hour training that I referenced for volunteers and staff as well, traditionally was done in person, but we've changed that to be virtual. So in a way that's really helpful because students and volunteers, staff can do it around their schedule a lot more easily. So yeah, the training is virtual now. The orientation's virtual. Yeah.
And are those at specific times or are they kind of on the internet and we just reach out saying, hey, I want to volunteer, and you can send us a link?
The orientation is at specific times, just to kind of meet and, you know, do an orientation with volunteers who are starting. The 40-hour training is all just links, videos that can be done on their own time. And we do, I just thought of this, I don't think this is something I covered. We do accept, I think a lot of people may think of our services traditionally as a women's shelter, but like I said, we provide more than just shelter. And then in addition to that, we also provide services for people of all backgrounds and genders. We're not just strictly a women's shelter. And then our volunteers as well. Sometimes I get the question, can men volunteer in your shelter? Yes, they can. So I think that's something I hadn't covered already. All right, any other questions right now?
And Ariella, I do have just another question, and a few people have asked this because some folks have asked. I know with Daniel, you said just, you know, he'll connect with you directly. But in terms of connecting students with your organization, is the best way to just have them reach out to you to figure out how best to connect?
Yep.
Or is there a specific method that you would prefer depending on the type of volunteering that they're doing?
I almost always prefer email, and I just threw my email in the chat there. And then I'm also going to add my phone number. Yeah, I almost always prefer email, but also on our website, you can reach out to our info at Safe Harbor Hope. Oh, let me just put that in the chat as well. Or our business line, and then they'll direct you from there. Info at Safe. And then let me add our business line as well. And you can find our business line and the info at Safe Harbor Hope email address on our website. But if any of you want to get in contact with me, my email's in the chat there. And then I'm just going to get the business line real quick.
Actually, Ariella, I have another question. This is just a question just out of interest in terms of how have you dealt with the issues with COVID in the women's shelter and having women there and still being able to serve that need, but yet in a socially distanced manner? You probably, I mean, to be able to pivot to suddenly have more space, right? Or individual rooms. I mean, I don't know what your facility looks like, but how have you been able to do that?
Good question. And it's taken a ton of planning, a ton of, you know, meetings, a ton of, I would say, collaboration. Our leadership team has been really good about making those plans and connecting with with the health departments and making sure that we're doing everything we need to keep our doors open for people who need shelter. And yet still stay safe. So we've done a lot of things, a lot of precautions, a lot of planning from our leadership team, like I said, and they've worked closely in collaboration with the health department and our board and things like that. And just kind of, yeah, we've done a lot of things, and we've fared, you know, very well, I think, through COVID with not having a ton of outbreaks or anything like that. So yeah. It's been a challenge, but I think our leadership team has managed it really well.
Yeah, I assume everybody, you know, they all have to wear masks and, you know, the whole time they're there, and, you know.
Yeah, masks, temperature checks, all sorts of things, all the things.
That adds so many more challenges on top of an already really challenging situation. Sorry you've had to deal with that. That's tough.
Yeah, it's been quite a year everywhere, but yeah, especially in a shelter. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other final questions? I didn't see any more coming through, but it looks like there's some appreciation given to Ariella. So maybe we can give her a virtual round of applause for all of her time and energy and effort sharing her wonderful insights with us today. So thank you, thank you. And the other thing I wanted to share, so we have another one of these coming up in November. On November 19th at 1:30, we will have 2 organizations joining us. So the American Red Cross as well as Neighborhood House. So maybe organizations you heard of, maybe not, but everybody has probably heard about the Red Cross before. But there's probably a lot you don't know happening behind the scenes. But hopefully this has been a good and informative meet and greet and virtual tour to get to know Safe Harbor a little bit more. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me, Ariella, Lucy. If you have ideas on things that we can do for the November session or future sessions, we are hoping we have 2 more scheduled in spring, and we're not, it might be that we're going virtual for those 2. I'm not sure yet. It kind of depends on how COVID is impacting things. But if this is something that's been helpful, please let me know. If you ever want like your student group or your department to get kind of your own meet and greet with community partners, I'm more than happy to help facilitate that and help increase that awareness across campus. So thank you everyone for coming. I'm so tickled that we had 11 folks on the call today. I think that that is a much better turnout than we were thinking that might happen. And so we really appreciate y'all taking the time to come and hang out with us this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I second all that. I'm thrilled we had such good attendance as well. So thanks for coming.
Lucy and Rebecca, do you have a moment to stay on and chat?
Yeah.
Yes, let me stop recording and then we can go from there. Thanks, everyone.
Well, thanks, Ariella.